Boy, the evidence is really mounting, isn't it? All sorts of information is starting to come out now because of testimony given to the special committee that's investigating the attempt to overthrow our government by Trump and his minions of traitors and scum. But the information is pouring out. I mentioned yesterday about an article that appears in Rolling Stone, where the organizers of this January 6th bullshit participated in dozens of planning meetings with members of Congress and the White House staff. Now, some of this came out yesterday in corporate media, I guess is the way to put it. But there's a lot more that's due to come out. Now, the latest thing, oh my God, it just keeps happening. The latest thing is the information that is now out that ahead of the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, the Willard Hotel in downtown Washington, D.C. was a group of co-conspirators who, I'll say it again, they should be tried, found guilty, and shot. But it's where these co-conspirators, this Trump team, operated a so-called command center in their effort to deny Joe Biden the presidency and to tell the American people who voted for him to go fuck themselves, that it was all over. From here on out, it was going to be an authoritarian Christian fascist government. Why these people are still walking the streets? I mean, oh my God, the first thing they would do if they got power would be to eliminate that right for the rest of us. But I digress. Anyway, it was a set of rooms and suites in the Willard Hotel, about a block from the White House. And as the Washington Post reports, this is where some of the Orange Vomit's most loyal lieutenants were working day and night with one goal in mind: overthrowing the U.S. government, stymieing the will of the people in the 2020 election. They were hard at work, hard at work. Now, this group of scum, filth, was led by Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy the Bat Boy Giuliani. It was also led by Stephen Bannon, that scum-sucking bum who is hopefully will be in prison soon. Now, also there was, and this was kind of shocking to me because I wasn't completely aware of this, but it figures, former New York City Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik, that son of a bitch who's been in prison, the jail, something for crimes he committed. Of course he would be there. Also present was this guy, John Eastman, who calls himself a scholar, constitutional scholar. He was the one that prepared the blueprint showing the Trump scum how to overthrow the government, how Mike Pence could be a useful idiot in getting that done. In other words, he outlined scenarios, more than one, for denying Biden the presidency. And what they were doing was to make the case to Mike Pence and to increase pressure on him to take action on January 6th. When the confirmation, whatever, of the Electoral College was to take place, and it did take place in the House of Representatives joint session. And this bastard Eastman, this fascist son of a bitch Eastman, suggested that Pence had the power to do that. That's according to three people familiar with what happened, speaking on condition of anonymity to describe private conversations, yada, 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 yada. Now, the activities of this group of traitors included trying to find evidence of fraud. It's got to be here someplace. And they were going to take that evidence of fraud and urge members of various state legislatures to challenge Biden's victory. And also, part of this group of traitors' job was to call on Trump-supporting members of the public to put pressure on Republican officials in key states to do just that. I mean, this was not, this is what we're finding out, that this is not a spontaneous eruption as a result of Trump's speech on the ellipse right before this riot took place. This was carefully planned out. It was carefully orchestrated. It was run by Trump and the scum around him. I mean, they weren't fucking kidding, okay? This was an attempt to overthrow the government of the United States. So again, I just ask a simple question because I'm not that bright a human being. Why are these people still wandering the streets? Why is this filthy pig, Donald Trump, allowed to continue from wherever he is, Bedminster, Mar-a-Lago, I don't give a shit where he is, but he is still plotting to overthrow the government? Where are the rest of these scum? Where's Giuliani? Where's Bannon and Eastman and the rest of these people? Now, the question is purely rhetorical. Because where they should be is at Leavenworth, Kansas, in prison for the rest of their fucking lives. Do you disagree with that, gentle listener? One of those, well, wait, I'll get that in a second. The effort from this command center underscores the extent that Trump and the rest of these traitors were working right up to the last moment to subvert what the voters of this country said they wanted done on November 3rd. They didn't give a shit about that. I mean, when you're set out to overthrow a government, a duly elected government especially, when you are driven by fascistic tendencies, when you are led by a cult leader who is fucking insane, you don't care about what the voters said. Why should you? There's no reason to. And all of this was to try to pressure Pence to delay or block certification of the election. Now, one of those present, this Russian, I think he's a Jew, Boris Epstein. He doesn't spell it the way it's spelled normally. Boris Epstein. He was White House Special Assistant Boris Epstein. He said, quote, "I firmly believe then, as I believe now, that the vice president, as president of the Senate, had the constitutional power to send the issue back to the states for 10 days to investigate the widespread fraud and report back well in advance of Inauguration Day, January 20th. Our efforts were focused on conveying that message." End quote. Boris Epstein. Jesus God. Now, in trying to get testimony out of this dumpster-dwelling thug, Steve Bannon, the congressional panel that's investigating this horror cited Bannon's presence at the war room while all of this is going on. The House voted last Thursday to hold Bannon in contempt, if you remember, because he said, "No, I'm not going to say shit, man. Nuh-uh. I'm just like Himmler. I'm not going to go against my boss, Adolf. Ain't no way." Anyway, the committee has also requested documents and communications related to Eastman's legal advice. Legal advice. How do you give legal advice on how to overthrow a government? How is that considered legal advice? I know it must be because we operate within a democratic republic and we have a constitution and, you know, free speech, which allows fucking scum-sucking Nazis to march through the streets of Charlottesville, Virginia, screaming, "Jews will not replace us." That's what comes with freedom. That's what comes with a constitution that says people have the right to assemble. People have the right to speak out, even if they're Nazi filth. Wow. Anyway, apparently this Eastman scum told the Washington Post last Wednesday that he has not yet been contacted by the House Select Committee investigating this attempt to overthrow the government. And he was asked about his involvement in Trump's operation at the Wilder Hotel, and Eastman said this, quote, "To the extent I was there, those were attorney discussions. You don't get any you don't get any comment from me on those," end quote. Yeah, attorney discussions on how to overthrow the government of the United States. This is what comes with the stuff that is normally applied in a free and open society like ours. Constitution, certain rules of evidence, certain discussions are privileged, yada, 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 yada. Then we have proprietary information, all this other stuff that denies us, the American people, the knowledge that we need to have to go after these son of a bitches. And again, in my humble opinion, every one of them should be put on trial for treason, and if found guilty, hanged. I mean, what is so difficult about that? I mean, if these were Chinese or Russians or Iranians or Ecuadorians or Norwegians and they attempted to overthrow the government of the United States, or I don't even have to go that far, if these were African Americans who did what happened on January 6th this year, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Of the 10,000 rioters who showed up, if they were black, there wouldn't be one of them left walking the street. They would all be in prison, awaiting the hearings. But they weren't Russian or Chinese or Ecuadorian or Norwegian or African Americans. These were white Christian evangelical filth. Scum. People who want to overthrow the government and have not stopped. That was rehearsal. That was day one. Also present with this gang was a so-called news reporter from Onan News, One American News, that filthy Nazi organization, and her name is Christina Bobb, and she's a lawyer by training. Why has she still got a law license? How the fuck does this stuff happen? You work to overthrow the government, and you're an officer of the court, and when it's revealed that you were working to overthrow the government, you still have your law license? Oh, by the way, Giuliani's lawyer, one Robert Costello, when asked for comment about all this, refused to respond, as did all of these filth. Oh, Carrick, Bernie, he said his firm billed the Trump campaign more than $55,000 for rooms for this team of traitorous dogs. He was said he was helping to lead or to have head up efforts to collect and investigate allegations of election fraud. Oh, Bernard Carrick, somebody who was found guilty of all sorts of illegal shit, and he's going to head up the team to investigate allegations of election fraud. That makes sense. That makes sense. Now, 3 people familiar with the operation inside the suite of rooms described, this is how the Post puts it, intense work in the days and hours leading up to and even extending beyond 1 p.m. on January 6th, when Congress convened for the counting of electoral votes. These traitorous son of a bitches were still working to overthrow the government after the invasion occurred. Now, in addition to that, from this command center, and again, according to the Washington Post and the investigative reporters who are working on this, Trump's scum were calling members of legislatures, Republican-dominated legislatures in swing states around the country, that the traitorous dog Eastman had said, this is where you call. These are the people you call in his memos. And that included Pennsylvania, Arizona, and here in Georgia. And the memo from the traitorous filth Eastman encouraged these state legislators to convene special sessions to, investigate fraud. And that was just the cover. The real purpose was to reassign the Electoral College votes in these various states from Biden to Trump. That's according to people familiar with this traitorous operation, this attempt to overthrow the government. On January 2nd, the Post goes on, Trump, Giuliani, and Eastman spoke to 300 state legislators via a conference call. Trump, Giuliani, and Eastman spoke to 300 state legislators. And how many of those state legislators went immediately to the watchdog, the American watchdog, the American media, the press, and said, hey, these people are plotting to overthrow the government? How many? As far as I know, not one. This is how deep and wide this conspiracy by this Christian fascists to overthrow this government. And this conference call was designed to give these 300 state legislators so-called evidence of fraud, even when there was none, and to get them to take action to decertify what had already been certified by the state legislators, the state legislatures. But they were calling these traitorous filth, these fucks within the legislatures, and saying to them, hey, listen, we have proof. We'll get it to you. But in the meantime, decertify what your General Assembly has already certified. Take it away from Biden. Quick, quick, quick. Trump told the state lawmakers, according to all these witnesses, quote, you are the real power. You're the ones that are going to make the decision, end quote. Oh, my God. Now, according to the Washington Post, one of the participants on this call, one of the people who got the call from these traitorous filth, was a Michigan state senator named Ed McBroom. And he recalled listening as Trump, Giuliani, Eastman, and a whole bunch of others described the power that state legislators have over the certification of electors. This is what he told the Post, Mr. McBroom, quote, I didn't need any convincing about our powers. I was listening to hear whether they had any evidence to substantiate claims of voter fraud that could change the results in Michigan. The callers did not provide that information, end quote. And then he did not support a delay in the electoral vote count. Oh, my God, Ed McBroom, he didn't go along with the scam. Well, he will certainly be primaried, won't he? But then there were others who went along with it willingly, gladly. According to the Post, 3 days after the call, dozens of lawmakers wrote from Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. They wrote to Mike Pence, and they asked him that he delay certification of Biden's victory to allow, quote, our respective bodies to meet, investigate, and as a body vote on certification or decertification of the election, end quote. I mean, see, you and I didn't know this was going on, did we? And the legislators, the scum, the filth, these Christian fascists who were in on this in the various states, they weren't going to tell anybody. This is how widespread this conspiracy is. Do you have any doubts left whatsoever what has happened to the Republican Party? That is now a Christian fascist organization absolutely determined to overthrow the government of this country. I mean, surely you don't continue to believe that the Republican Party is the Republican Party. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.